What is up, my friends? How are we? You are very welcome along to Monday's late night agenda. Obviously, a couple of days till we take on Aston Villa in another massive game in the Premier League. Our preview went out a little bit earlier on this afternoon. I hope you had a chance to have a look at it. If you do, your thoughts on the attempt at a team selection, greatly appreciated. Yeah, lovely to be here with you. What a busy day yesterday was for us, man. I think I did 5.5 hours of streaming yesterday, and certainly noticed it this morning when the old voice woke up, but glad to be here with you guys again. We're going to talk about the title of tonight's stream, obviously, because based off the reading of the headlines and the journalist thoughts, and these seem to me to be three very genuine targets for the summer transfer window. Doesn't mean we're going to get them all, but we're going to talk about it tonight and think, what do you guys think about it? How many to 300k? Somebody said, well, 492. It's tantalizingly close, and hopefully we get there on Wednesday. But yeah, it's I can't say I'm not checking in every so often to see how it's going, but yeah, we're getting close. Right, Perth, Australia in the house. Sean Chu, how are we, bro? Welcome in. Daniel McCrossan as well. How are you, bro? Welcome in. Lovely to see you guys. Right, tonight we're going to talk about lots of bits and pieces. We're going to talk about this idea that maybe Allison Becker could be for sale in the summer. I wanted to get your thoughts on that one. We're going to talk about Xavi Simons and some links with not just Liverpool, but lots of Premier League clubs with a move to him. We'll be talking a little bit more about the state of play at Manchester United and how their finances seem to be going from bad to worse. A little bit on HUIJSEN, a little bit on... we got confirmation from Curtis Jones that Virgil van Dijk does indeed smell as nice as we think he would. I know, that's not something you needed to know in your life, but now you do. So yeah, look, loads to get through, but as always, I like to spend the first 10-15 minutes just having a quick chat with you all and seeing how you're feeling. Costa Rica in the house. Paolo, lovely to see you back in, my man. Thank you for being with us. And look, I promise you one thing tonight, right? I'm not going to go on a journalist rant tonight. I promise you that. I just needed to respond last night to, to the stupidity of the journalists having a pop back, but we won't be talking about it tonight. We're going to talk about Haddo as well. Yeah, of course. Look, again, please don't take it as me saying that those three names tonight are the only ones that may be an option for us in the summer. You're absolutely right to speak about Jorel Haddo. He is an option for Liverpool. He's also an option for Real Madrid. So yeah, we'll try and figure that one as well. Do you know what? I don't know, folks, if I'm deluding myself, but it feels in the past week like there's been a real shift towards ISAK in just the headlines, really, and the writing about Liverpool. I wonder, Newcastle are in with a chance of not getting Champions League football. I think you can probably take it at this point. The 5 places will go to the Premier League this season. But if Newcastle don't make it, then we've got to be jumping all over that, because ISAK won't want to be not playing in the Champions League. He's too good to not be playing in the Champions League. So I guess the other way we can try and figure is, do we see the owner spending that much? And look, if you bring in money from Darwin, who knows? Because I've seen prices ranging from €100 million up to €150 million. And it's hard to know which one's going to be realistic, because we also don't know what the state of Newcastle's PSR situation would be if they didn't make Champions League football. Can you try to do a stream with Dunk? I emailed him the other day, man. I emailed Dunk on Friday, I think it was. I haven't heard back from him. So I can't do any more than that, my man. I reached out to him and said, look, do you want to do a video or something together, or a live Q&A? And I haven't heard back from him yet. So don't worry about it, mate. I am trying. And look, I'm not trying to say that he hasn't bothered. I'm sure he's a busy fella, same as myself, but just letting you know that I have reached out to him. Cole Palmer for Liverpool if Chelsea miss Champions League. I don't know. It's just what... Chelsea aren't going to be in selling mode. Now, I get what you're saying. There's been some talk from, I think, even pundits that if Chelsea don't get Champions League football, Cole Palmer may be off. But, yeah, let's wait and see. How am I feeling about Villa? Said Nevelin. Nervous. Yeah, nervous, man. It's such a big week. There's no getting away from it. The Aston Villa game, the Man City game, and then the Newcastle game on the Wednesday. The next 7 to 10 days could play a huge part in the Premier League title race. So yeah, I'm nervy. I don't know about everybody else, but I'm happy to take 7 points from these 9. You want 9 points, of course you do. But I wouldn't be dissatisfied with 7. Because I think we're going to see Arsenal drop a couple of points somewhere as well. They've got, Forest, Chelsea, West Ham, not in that order, and United coming up. So they've got some tricky enough games to manoeuvre past as well. Palmer's going to be massively overpriced and is so overrated, said Mukrab. I'm glad I'm not the only one, bro, because I'm with you. I don't see the massive appeal of Palmer. I think he's not fully at the level yet I'd want a Liverpool player to be, but he does score some good goals. I agree with you. I just don't see him as a Liverpool player personally. Farron Davies, thank you, mate. Davies, excuse me. Thank you, mate, for your super chat. Said, I'm probably wrong, but I swear there was a release clause in ISAK's contract of like 80 mil. Regardless, though, I think we should pay whatever it takes. So, I don't think there is a release clause. Now, again, happy to be corrected if I'm wrong on that, Farron, but I don't believe there's a release clause in there. Dean HUIJSEN now, he does have a release clause, and I guess let's kick off with that tonight. We did get confirmation of that. Fabrizio Romano, again, confirming what we thought to be the case. He said, exclusive, Dean HUIJSEN's contract at Bournemouth includes a £50 million release clause. The clause is 100% confirmed, as revealed in January, and it will be valid from the summer. 19-year-old defender attracting interest from top clubs after an excellent performances at Bournemouth this season. And if anybody would have known about that release clause, surely it would have been Richard Hughes, who would have played a part in bringing him to the Vitality. So it's interesting. It really is. Like, HUIJSEN at £50 million looks like good business to me. But I don't know if people have other centre-back options. Obviously, Haddo was a name that's been mentioned quite a bit. Both of these centre-backs have also been linked with moves to Real Madrid. So, make of that what you will. So, let's go through it tonight and have a bit of fun and go through position by position and see what you think at centre-back. Because I'm intrigued to see who Liverpool think would be a good fit. I have to admit, I didn't know much about HUIJSEN until he came to Bournemouth. I knew his name. I knew he was at Juventus, but I never really paid much attention to him. And the fact he's so young as well. If you were to bring him in, as an example, or Haddo, I guess it works with either, and you have him, a young Jarell Kwanzaa, and then Ibrahim Konate, who still young, could be the future leader of the defence, that wouldn't be too shabby, in my opinion. But again, you talk about all of these things, and you have to caveat it with the contract situations currently at the club. Tom said, Newcastle admire Kelleher and Kwanzaa, so could be. Kwanzaa won't be going anywhere. I can tell you that for a fact. He will not be going anywhere. Gomez, maybe. Kwanzaa, no. Kelleher, to the best of my understanding, Tom, has admiring glances coming his way from Leeds, Celtic, Bournemouth, I think, Chelsea and Newcastle. And do you know what? I think Newcastle would be a great move for Kelleher. I really do. But I guess, Tom, you've kind of led me into a topic I wanted to discuss tonight, and that's Allison Becker. Because I'm sure you guys have seen this, but over the last week, more and more stories are coming out about Liverpool being willing to let Allison leave this summer. Piece here in Team Talk said Liverpool are ready to let Allison Becker leave this summer ahead of Georgi Mamardashvili's arrival at the club. The Brazilian would prefer to stay in Europe than move to Saudi Arabia. Thoughts on this one? Because it feels like a huge overhaul of the goalkeeping department in one window. So if you lose Kelleher, which is probably going to happen because of his contract situation, you've got Allison there, according to a couple of pieces, who may be available to sell. And then you're bringing in Mamardashvili, and you've no bona fide backup keeper there either, because I'm not sure the contract situation with Virdislav Jaros. But yeah, it just feels risky, if I'm being honest. To think about Allison's future, I think I can understand if the club are worried about injuries. That's the only reason. There couldn't be any other reason on the planet why Liverpool would look to move Allison on. The only thing I can think of is they're looking to the future and thinking, are these injuries continuing to mount up? Is he going to become a bit more injury prone over the course of the next few seasons? And I don't know the answer to that one. I mean, I'm sure you guys don't know the answer to it either, but it's the only thing I can think of, because performance-wise, he's still the best in the world, in my opinion. So I can't see any other reason for it other than Liverpool maybe looking to cash in to bring in money. It's it's a weird one. It really is, because I would have liked, at the very least, a transitional season where we've got Mamardashvili and Allison. Because for all the good we know that there is in Mamardashvili, I've not really seen too much of him using the ball at his feet. So I'm unsure about how that side of things will go at Liverpool. Tom, thank you again, mate, for your super chat. Tom said, I believe Harvey could be on the way out too. You know, sometimes, Tom, I let my own love of Harvey Elliott get in the way of it, but I get where you're coming from. You know, he's not getting much of a look in from Arne Slot. He's not getting many opportunities. Same with Federico Chiesa. So, yeah, you're right. There may well be players like that moving on, but it'll be a sad day for me if Elliott moves on, because it's not just how much I like him. You know how much he loves being a Liverpool player. Like, it's his club in his own eyes. So, yeah, that'll be a really difficult one. And do you know what? I wonder how much market value would be for somebody like a Harvey Elliott. Parek, excuse me, mate, said, can Yaros be a proper backup? Well, he could be, but again, to the best of my understanding, his contract is up. Now, I remember speaking with David Lynch a while back, and he was unsure about whether Yaros maybe had a year or two to run. But the general consensus was that his contract's up in the summer as well. So then you'd have him gone, Kelleher gone, and potentially Allison Becker gone. That's a lot of change in what has been a very stable department for us. Goalkeeping department, we've been spoiled. You know if Allison's out, you've got Kelleher coming in, who has been nothing short of top notch as a backup. Bricktop said 40 million, but it would be sad to see him go. Talking about Mr. Kelleher there. No, not Kelleher, sorry, Mr. Elliott. Craig, is the Firmino stuff fake? Again, Logan, I'm going to need a bit more than that, bro. So, the only things I can tell you about Bobby Firmino at the minute is, it looks like he's trying to come to an agreement to cancel his contract in Saudi. And after that, I'm sure he'll probably move somewhere else. But I've not seen anything with Liverpool, if that's what you're asking. Nor should we. We shouldn't even explore that possibility, you know. And I say this as Bobby Firmino's super fan. You know, I've got a painting of him in my living room. I love the guy. But his best days are behind him. Cunha, though, I'm kind of coming around to that idea, but not more than ISAK. ISAK's got to be the guy. The only way we let Allison leave is to give Kelleher a new deal, said JD. Problem is there, he won't sign it. And I understand it. I wouldn't sign it in his position either. Because he knows there's another goalkeeper coming in. And this is what has kind of frustrated me about it all. We brought in a goalkeeper, and I always said immediately, imagine how Caoimhín must feel. Because he put no foot wrong, done brilliant for us in 2 seasons in a row, where he's had to play a large chunk of seasons when Alisson's been injured. And then we go out and bring in another goalkeeper. So, yeah, he's going to go, mate, because he's 1 year to go in his deal, and Liverpool are going to want to get some money there. Unless we're all very, very wrong, and Liverpool are willing to write off Caoimhín Kelleher and keep him for that extra season. I'm sure Kelleher wouldn't be happy about that, but I don't know. All I can say is the expectation is that he gets sold this summer. Charlie said, I don't know why, but I don't see Cunha in a Liverpool shirt. So, Charlie, I'll be honest with you, mate. I was the same until somebody said one thing, and then I thought about it. They said, I can see him doing the Bobby Firmino style role at Liverpool. And it was only after somebody pointed that out to me, I thought, you know what? They've got a really good point there. And then I watched them play against us and watched up the positions he was taking and the cleverness of his movement. And I thought, it could be something in that, you know. And you know with him, there's a release clause. So there's no huge negotiation like you'd have to do with Newcastle. It'll be a straight, I think, £62.5 million or something like that. And I was really impressed with the goal he scored against us. He was like, with his weaker foot, to curl it in and control the finish the way he did. I thought it was an excellent finish. Why have these not come through for me? 1 second. Oh, how did that turn off? That's weird. Sorry, my chat turned off there for a second. I don't know why. Tom, Homegrown will fund the summer. It's FSG. Out for in. So my only problem there, Tom, is I've no problem moving on players that the manager or the club doesn't feel are going to cut it. You know, that's their decision to make. But what I hope is that we don't have to wait until we sell players to bring in players. Because I think that weakens your negotiating standpoint. I guess from the club's perspective, you don't want to be hoarding players, but I would hope in the summer that we see our signings brought in early. Because we know managers love to work with players as early as possible. So I'm hoping that we execute whatever the transfer plans are, or at least the majority of it, early doors in the window. Nick, thank you, sir, for your super chat. Said, we could very likely have one or two of the Champions League team left. Football moves fast. I think we'll see a huge wave of changes in the squad. To that point, Nick, now please research this and let me know if I'm wrong on it. But I swear one of the guys in our Discord said that in Arne Slot's second season or something, or second window with Feyenoord, he got rid of like 16 or 17 players. Now, I haven't been able to confirm that yet because I haven't had time. But if that is the case, it shows he's got that ruthless streak in him if he was willing to make those wholesale changes that quick at Feyenoord. So, you know, do let me know if I'm wrong on it, but it would certainly show a willingness to move players on and be ruthless. I watched the Saudi League game today and I'm letting you know Firmino was great. Maybe, but he's not good enough to come back and play for us. Remember when he left at the time? It was lovely getting the send-off we did, the goals against United and all, but his best days are well and truly behind him. And there's a marked difference between playing in the Saudi League and coming over and playing at the tail end of the Champions League, or, you know, to try and win the Premier League. And he'll know that. You know, I love Bobby Firmino to bits, but I wouldn't be welcoming him back because I don't think it's the right idea for anyone. I see Arsenal are interested in Firmino. That would be... Do you know, I don't know if it'd be funny or sad. Because obviously Arsenal are desperate to get a signing in the front. And they can bring in players who are out of contract, players who aren't tied to any clubs. But it would also reek of desperation, in my opinion, if they did it. And I'd hate to see Bobby in an Arsenal shirt. Dylan, how are you, Dylan? Dylan Griffin said, Craig, what's your opinion on Luis Diaz links to Barcelona, and would you be willing to sell? Yes, I would. And I think the links are genuine. They've got a 4-man shortlist, I think, for that left side. But again, you just have to ask the question, Dylan, do they have the money to come in and sign Luis Diaz? But I would be willing to sell, and I'll tell you why. We're spoiled on the left, right? We've got Gakpo and Diaz. And I think it's a case of what you like sometimes, who you like for specific games. But the age profile of Luis Diaz and the fact he has 2 years to go, it just strikes me as a deal that Liverpool might be willing to do. Now, I think it was Sam Maguire wrote a piece. I think it was Sam Maguire wrote a piece to suggest that Arne Slot had grown frustrated with Luis Diaz over the course of the season because of his erratic form. And if that was the case, I'd say I think it's probably a little bit unfair to Luis Diaz, because a lot of the time he's been shoehorned in through the middle, and he's not a centre forward. I thought against Wolves he looked far better on the left hand side. But yeah, allowing for his age, I would. If the offer was right and Liverpool had a player they had in mind, I wouldn't be against it. I wouldn't be actively looking to move him on, but if it was a deal that he wanted and it worked for the club, I wouldn't be against it. Mikhail said, who would you replace Diaz with? Look, in an ideal world, you're looking at a Nico Williams, in Dreamland, a Rafael or somebody like that. But yeah, I think a Nico Williams, but I just get the feeling with him he wants to stay in Spain. I know there's been some pieces linking him with a move, but I've always felt like he's kind of holding out for Barcelona if he is going to leave Athletic Club Bilbao. Dave, how are you, my man? Said, before we get excited about new signings, I want those contracts sorted. Yes, sir. I couldn't agree more, Dave. Because every night I do these streams, Dave, and people come in and we talk about transfers and people say, Craig, who would you bring in here or here? And every answer, Dave, I have to caveat it by saying it'll depend on the contracts. Because, I don't know what type of centre-back we'd need. Do we need a leader? So do we need to replace Verge? In which case, best of luck. Do we need to replace Mohamed Salah on the right? Are we looking for a right back to come in and replace Trent? These are questions that, as you rightly said, man, I can't really even think about transfers that much till I know exactly what's going on with the 3 players whose contracts are running down. Nick said, hard to get in the way of Latinos and Barca/Madrid. Yeah, especially somebody who, has always been very open, like Diaz and his family have been, about the dream being a move to Barcelona. If Liverpool can get a price that they're happy with and he moves on, I think we'll have said we've got the value out of Luis Diaz and his time here. Yeah. So I agree with you. It's difficult to stand in the way of them because, it seems to be players coming from Africa have more of an admiration of the Premier League, or at least it's the more watched league there. And players coming from the likes of South America, more looking at the Spanish league and stuff like that as well. I don't know. It's nervy because you're thinking how much upheaval, how many changes are we gonna see in the summer? Adam said, Craig, do you think Salah would be effective as a 9? Oh, it's a tough one. Finishing wise, yes. It's certainly something I'm surprised we haven't seen tried more. Because at times where we have been a little bit short or Diogo hasn't been available, I certainly wouldn't have been against trying Mohamed Salah through the centre. You've seen players in the past like Ronaldo and others as they get a little bit older and maybe half a yard of pace goes away, they reinvent themselves. Messi dropped a little bit deeper, becoming more of a playmaker as well. And then you've got the likes of Ronaldo who turned into just an out-and-out forward. So, yeah, perhaps you could try it. But, again, like Dave said, we're going to go back to say, but the contracts. Thoughts on Ivan Toney in Saudi? Look, I'll be really blunt about this. I don't watch any of the Saudi Pro League. I just don't. I've no interest in it. But I have seen Toney scoring some goals, and I've seen John Duran start it very quickly over there as well. I don't think Leo would mind joining Liverpool if we go to finals. The problem I'd have with Rafa Leao is his inconsistency of work rate. I've watched a few Milan games and I've heard the commentators even speaking about sometimes you look at Rafa Leao and he's a world beater and other times you look at him and you're just thinking, where's he gone? But there's no denying he has something special. And of course, having our own Portuguese man at the club as well in Diogo Jota, maybe he could have a word in his ear. But yeah, I think you're probably looking for Liverpool to go somewhat more cost effective than a Rafa Leao. Would I take McTominay to Liverpool? I wouldn't. But I've always thought he was an underrated player. Now, United fans might look at me and go, no. Because, to be fair to them, they would have seen a lot more of Scott McTominay than I would have. But he always seemed to be a player that chipped in with a share of goals. Always a player that put in 100% effort when I've watched them. And yeah, as you said, he's done very well over there at Napoli. So, what price do you think Luis Diaz would be sold for if we were to sell him? Because I have no idea. I don't even remember off the top of my head what we paid for Lucho when we signed him from Porto. But what price do you think would be a fair price for Liverpool to ask for a player who I think is going to be heading for 28? 70 million, 80 million, 60 million, 70, 70, 70, 80, 50, 70. I think I'm probably somewhere in the mid-50s to early 60s. In my own mind. Does anybody remember, though, what we paid for him? Because that'll kind of probably help me in my thought processes. I think we're not a million miles away. Some people lower end 50, some people upper end 80. We paid 49, thank you. Appreciate that, Kieran, thank you. And David as well. So we paid 49. So yeah, I mean, we've certainly improved them as a footballer, right? At Liverpool, so, we take that into account. Yeah, probably. I've probably undervalued him a little bit there. Then maybe medium 60s. Nick said, lads, we can speculate signings all we want, but we'll see a random here we go tweet for a player we've never been linked to on social media. Well, it's happened quite a bit, Nick. So, I'm not going to say you're wrong there, my friend. I don't know. I just feel like... I feel excited and nervous for the summer transfer business. I think the nerves mainly come from not knowing about the contracts. Like, as much as I complain and have complained about Edwards, Hughes and the owners, I sincerely do trust Edwards and Hughes to bring in the right type of players. The problem of just being they haven't done anything yet. We haven't seen the owners really splash the cash. But when the money is there, I definitely do have trust in Hughes and Edwards to make the right selections for Arne Slot and for the way we need to be set up. It's just worrying about how much money is going to be available and how much change we're going to see next summer. Because a wholesale change or having to put in a whole new spine of a team would be a big endeavour. If you lose Salah, let's say, or you lost Allison, you're looking at a really important part of that team then having to be changed after maybe winning a Premier League. And I hate the idea of going into a new season with a title winning team with a load of changes in it. I'd love us. This is me just being a combative personality, but nothing would shut other people up more than Liverpool going back to back. And look, I know I'm getting ahead of myself because we haven't even done the first part of it yet. But nothing would make me happier than going back to back, because then there's no more of the nonsense that we have to listen to about a COVID title, the PGMOL title, Liverpool only winning the league because other teams fell away. If you did it back to back, that's the end of that doubt. That's the end of that conversation about Liverpool getting lucky or anything like that. Mark said FSG will bottle signing ISAK. So, my honest take on ISAK, Mark, is if Newcastle get Champions League football, I don't see it happening. I think the only hope we have for that lining up is for Newcastle to miss out on Champions League football and PSR maybe forcing them into having to move on a big-ish player and ISAK maybe angling to get back playing Champions League football. Because you cannot have the year that he's having at Newcastle and then not be in the Champions League the following year. So it might come down to whether they can pinch that place or not to get into the Champions League. Adam said, Craig, mate, do your wife and son share your passion for Liverpool and football? Well, I have a daughter as well, but no, none of them. My wife's a Forest fan, but I would say that in a very casual term. Like, she wouldn't be hugely supportive. My son is an avid gamer. He's into his cars and he's into games. And my daughter, I would say, is probably the most Liverpool supporter or sportive of the rest of my family. She'd certainly be the one that would be buying shirts and stuff, but no, none of them really are into football. It's kind of just my thing. And even growing up, like, my dad only really got into football when I got into football, so yeah, it's not been something I've been able to share with the family. Tom, how are you, my friend? And by the way, I love these streams like tonight where we come in and everyone's sound and we're having a chat and we're talking about the future and I'm not angry and you're not angry. These are the streams I live for. So keep your thoughts coming in, keep your transfer suggestions coming in, and let's have a bit of fun tonight. Connor's away for a couple of days, so it's just me manning the fort, and I appreciate you all coming in again tonight. Tom said Hughes better get HUIJSEN at least and KERKEZ or the sack. So I'm happy with either or of Haddo or HUIJSEN. Personally, I'd be happy with either one. At left back, the thing that makes me really nervous about KERKEZ is that stream that he did, when the January window was still open and he was saying about not going to Liverpool. Now, as I said at the time, and I'll repeat again, I don't know if he meant that from a forever perspective or just in that window. And let's not forget, Bournemouth themselves are pushing for European football and heck, maybe even Champions League football if 5 teams get it. Adam said, apologies for forgetting your daughter. Don't be silly, my man. You never have to apologise to me, Adam. I don't expect you to know the ins and outs of my life, my man. But yes, do you know what's really scary though, Adam? My daughter turns 21 this year. That makes me feel very, very old. Like, my son's 13, so that's alright. I can cope with that. But my baby girl, my firstborn, turning 21 this year. Ah, man, I still remember her being a child, like, waddling around the living room and learning to walk and crawl, and God, where did the years go? Craig, thoughts on Pedri not saying we would sign him? I don't know what you mean by that sentence, mate. Thoughts on Pedri? I don't know the context of that, mate. Sorry. Jordan said, Craig, I turn 23 this year. Can you be my honorary dad? Deal, Jordan. No problem, mate. Doesn't Haddo play left back? Left back and left centre back. He can play in either position. Left centre back would be what I would consider his main role. But yeah, he can play in either. Same with the likes of Ait-Nouri. We all think of Ait-Nouri as a left back, but he has the ability to play the left side of centre back, I guess. Probably more in a back three, to be fair, but he's another name that's been linked for a while. But I've seen his name kind of start to get linked more with United, but they've brought in Dorgu now, so I don't see them really going into the market for another left back. Craig, you don't look anywhere near old enough to have a 21-year-old daughter. Well, I appreciate you lying to me, mate. Thank you. But now I'm 43. An old man at this point. Probably too old to be getting into rows with journalists on Twitter, but there you go. Thoughts on United, said Mike. Well, I've got something here on United, Mike, that I'm going to bring into the conversation, seeing as you brought them up. So this comes from the Daily Star, a newspaper in the UK, for those who may not be familiar. And this piece here about Manchester United, saying Manchester United co-owner Sir Jim Ratcliffe has not told staff at the club about the latest round of redundancies, with employees still waiting to learn if their jobs are safe or not. He is just cutting costs a go-go at Manchester United, and another round there of redundancies where staff not even sure what's going on. It's shocking. It's absolutely shocking when you see them doing all this and then at the same time putting the hat out for public funding for their Wembley of the North. Sorry, had a bit of a burp there. Do you think you'll have 300k at the end of the stream? No, mate, not a chance. 300k I'm hoping for on Wednesday against Villa. A normal day for us, you're probably looking about 100, 150 subs on a regular news day like this. On a match day, it can be anywhere between 350 to 800, depending on how busy it is. So my fingers crossed hope, because we've got the 300k image and all ready to go. I hope it's Wednesday. And please read, I'm having a panic attack, so I'm watching to help. Any advice? Concentrate on your breathing, Lauren. Concentrate on your breathing. I remember them before, and what's really important to know about them is recognizing what they are, which is just a panic attack. Breathe through it, focus, listen to me, take care of your breathing in and out. I know people say brown bags don't work, but they work for me, Lauren, and if nothing else, it just gave me a focus. So stay listening to me, remember to breathe through it, and remember that it's just your body with too much energy, too much adrenaline, and it will calm down and you will get through it, and it is not something that you need to be overly concerned about. The trick for me with panic attacks, Lauren, was to learn and understand when they start, what they are, how to spot them, how to control them, and the only way I ever found that worked was breathing through it, and just understanding what it is and knowing that it isn't going to kill you, because when they first happen they're so scary. But understand what it is, and if you need anything else, and I hope you get down, keep talking to me and I'll keep talking back to you, because I understand the spot you're in and they're very, very difficult, But I hope that will calm you down a bit. We hope that your pulse level gets back down and you understand again what the process is here, because it isn't going to hurt you, as bad as that sounds and as unlikely as it sounds when you're going through it. And the brown bag does work, exactly. I know people say these days not to use them anymore, but I always found that they worked for me when I was having a panic attack, breathing into a paper bag, in and out, concentrating your breathing, nothing else, and then you'll start to feel the heart rate drop and drop and drop. I remember the first one I ever had. I jumped into the shower, fully clothed, on cold. I didn't know what was happening. But I hope you're okay, Lauren. Nick said, think we'll win the Prem. Tax is outrageous. The Prem tax is outrageous. Just look at recent Prem to Prem transfers. We won't be able to buy for quantity in England. Well, we also have to maybe acknowledge that some of the players who are moving on might bring in some of that Prem tax you're talking about. But I get where you're coming from. It is very difficult these days to do Prem to Prem moves, and they have been quite expensive, particularly for young players. It used to be inexperienced players. You know, you paid a little bit for potential, but now you're almost paying top money for young players with potential, which the whole market just feels weird. Albert said, if we win the league, do you think FSG will still pay up? I don't see that they've any other choice at this point, Albert, because, you know, we've not done anything in 2 windows. And our opponents aren't going to stand still. So yeah, I think they have to, no matter what happens. And I think the biggest thing for them has always been make sure you have Champions League football, because look at the season. We didn't get it. We went out and spent money. And a good bit of money at the time. I think it's one of the highest net spend windows we've had, if not the highest under them. I think it was about 95 million, something like that, net spend. Maldeni said, voice of the voiceless Anfield Agenda family. Thank you, man. Do you know what? I didn't realise the amount of support we were going to get about the journalist stuff. Of all the things that I've kind of, I guess, tried to speak on over the years, the thing that I've gotten the most support on here has been calling out the lack of critical voices from the journalists, or the lack of holding to account to the owners. I didn't realise that I'd struck a chord with so many people on that, because I have been absolutely bombarded with messages and emails and people just saying thank you for speaking up. And look, you've nothing to ever thank me for. I speak up about it because it personally winds me up. And I'm not going to go into the rant like I promised at the start of the stream, don't worry. But what I get about these things is these same journalists are very happy to jump onto Twitter and call out aggregator accounts or fan accounts or people to belittle them, calling them, you know, bad outlets and saying that they're fools, or ridiculing fans that they want hundreds of signings. And then they cry arse when somebody calls them out because they think they're better than us. That's it. And I don't care what they say or how they respond. They think they're better than us. And they look down their noses because they're the serious people. You know, they're the ones that should be on a pedestal. It isn't that way anymore. You know, it isn't. And I grew tired of it personally, because I think the voiceless need a voice. And I'm not saying I'm that voice, but I'll be one of them. I'm calm now, as I was panicking about nothing. I'm feeling hot and struggling with anxiety, and fellow person with autism. Hey, I get it, Lauren, and I'm so glad that you're feeling better. Thank you for letting me know that you're feeling better, because it would have stayed in the back of my mind throughout the stream as well. But, you know, always here. So if you want to come in for a chat or a distraction, Lauren, you know where we are. Craig, not to start any fights or anything, but may I know what happened yesterday on Twitter? So we did I had a bit of a rant on Friday about journalists, and I said to Connor, do me a favour, clip that and put it up on Twitter. I think it went up Friday night, if I'm not mistaken. And then Dominic King, who wasn't even in my thought process when I spoke about the journalist, because I haven't seen any football work from him in a while. So when I was speaking about journalists, I wasn't really specifically thinking about him. And he then came on and had a pop back, which is, of course, his right to do. But I just found it very arrogant, to be honest with you. The whole don't think you're going to say this and not get away without a response, as if I'm supposed to be intimidated by him or any of them. So that was it, really. Kind of something and nothing, to be honest with you. And the truth of it is, in any walk of life, my view is this. If you're getting called out on something and you're not doing something right, tough. Live with it. Be better. And it's only my opinion. You know, they don't have to take my opinion. They don't have to listen to me. But my opinion is that they're not doing us a service properly as fans. My opinion is that they're kowtowing down to the owners and that they're not asking enough critical questions. It's as simple as that, really. And they won't, a lot of them won't acknowledge this, even though we know it all to be the case. We know that they won't call out the owners because they're afraid of not getting into the stadiums. They're afraid of not getting the interviews. They're afraid of not having the access. I get it. But you can't have jam on both sides of your bread. You can't dip your toe into the YouTube world and this side of things and then not be forthright in your opinions. That's all it's about, really. Come to my wedding in Melbourne. Oh, I'd love to, man. I'd love to go to Australia someday. It's been on my kind of bucket list to do when I turn 50. The idea was hopefully I'd have saved up enough that when I turn 50, myself and my wife can go for a month or 6 weeks to Australia and New Zealand. Samuel said, if people feel aggrieved by what you said, you're probably feeling some sort of guilt. And that's my point as well, mate. Because I know that the stuff that stings me personally is the stuff that I think about myself. So if somebody calls me fat, that stings me more because I know I am. And I know I shouldn't have let myself put on the weight. Or if somebody calls me negative, I take that and think, you know what, sometimes I am. Sometimes I can be negative. So yeah, maybe this stung a little bit because I think that's the consensus at the minute. And look at the replies to it. I mean, normally I get slaughtered for most of the stuff I say on Twitter, but I will send pages and pages of replies, people just backing me up and going, he's right. And, you know, that meant a lot. Nick, FSG, once bitten, twice shy. They'll frame Darwin as the reason not to splash the cash on a single player ever again. So, not to defend FSG, because, you know, I don't like doing that. But I've said this multiple times and I feel like I'll say it again. I don't think we sign FSG if Michael Edwards is at the club. And that's my honest opinion of it. I don't think Edwards would have fallen into that trap. Because as much as I call out our lack of spending, I have every faith in Edwards and Hughes. I really do. When it comes to picking and spotting talent, I have every faith in them. My faith has just been about the lack of money being spent. And as much as some other people have tried to say that they have the autonomy to make decisions about transfers, I never believe that. I think everything stops with the owners. They set the parameters financially and everybody else operates in it. But I trust them implicitly, and I don't think he would have signed Darwin because we fell into the trap of two things, in my opinion. We signed a player who'd had a very, very good season, but a player who also played well against us. And that's been something I've seen Liverpool do over the years, and it's never worked out. So I do have faith. I just don't have the faith in the money side of it yet. And the biggest problem I have right now is the contracts, because I don't see what the excuse is there. I don't see the reason it takes this long. And I don't see how at least one of them couldn't have been done, unless the intention is not to do them. In which case, we're all being played for fools again. But I don't know that to be the case. But what I do know is, it shouldn't take this long to sort out contracts if you really want them done. Lauren, you're a legend, Craig. I watch you every day. Makes my day. Oh, man. Lauren, thank you. I tend to watch a watch along with Real Madrid. It saved me. You owe me nothing, Lauren. You said, you know, you owe me your life. I'm going to say this sincerely, Lauren. I owe this community my life and my wife. Because there's been times over the years I've made this channel with Connor where I've nearly given up in general. I don't mean about the channel, I mean given up. And it's been really dark times. But this community stuck by me, and we've grown, and we've, you know, had some moments over the years where I've not been the very best version of me, but people haven't judged me for it and stuck with me. And it's a special place. And it honestly makes my heart feel so full when I come on here and chat with everybody and see the kindness to each other. And because the internet can be a horrible, shitty place sometimes. And I've backed away from social media, and, you know, I don't interact much online. But when I come on here, it's just different, you know. I feel, how do I describe this? I've never felt like I've belonged in the world, you know, because I'm a little bit different. I think a little bit differently, you know. I've got anxiety issues and stuff. And I've never felt comfortable with who I am or with my place in the world. And now I feel like I have a purpose. I feel like I can be a good example to my kids. And I feel like whatever happens, I've left my mark on the world. I've left a small little legacy. In 30, 40 years, my kids and grandkids can look back and see my hijinks in watch-alongs and on games. And I'm tremendously proud of that. But I'm tremendously proud of it because we've done it our way, you know. We've done it without any hand-ups. We've done it without any opportunities being gifted to us, or, you know, we built it together, all of us, from the ground up, from a place of nowhere to this, nearly 300,000. That's the good side of the internet for me, you know. Do you remember when Twitter was early days and it used to be like, or Facebook or any of this stuff, and it was like, wow, I can connect to people I went to school with, or I can connect with Liverpool fans on the other side of the world. Well, that became more and more toxic to me as social media grew. But this is our little controlled environment where, you know, it feels cool. It feels fun. How many kids have I got? 2, mate. 2. I've got a boy and a girl. Right, loads of news to get through. So let's talk about Xavi Simons for a minute. A piece here from Football Insider said Liverpool have been told that a £60 million offer for Xavi Simons would likely be accepted by RB Leipzig. Manchester City are also eyeing the midfielder as a long-term replacement for Kevin De Bruyne. So I want to ask this question because I asked it a while ago, and I'm going to just throw up a quick poll. 1 second. Actually, I'm going to word it differently. Okay, so the question I'm going to ask is Xavi Simons good enough for Liverpool? Not do you think we'll sign him or do you want him, but do you think he's good enough to come and play for Liverpool? Because that's the part that I really struggle with. I just don't see where he is in our squad or in our system. I just don't see it. But then again, I've been very, very wrong about this stuff before. For instance, Gravenberch. You might remember when we signed him, I was very doubtful, and I thought, well, why is he moved from Ajax and not going to look in at Bayern Munich? And it was clearly me being in the wrong there, because mainly Arne, to be fair, has turned him into this monster in the middle of the park. So I'm open to being wrong about Simons as well, but I just don't see it. So the poll's up. Please do vote away in it, and we'll come back to it in a few minutes. 60 million as well. And that's pounds, by the way. That seems a lot of money for a player that, I don't know, just, I'm unsure. But what I would say is, if Arne wants him, like anybody else, I'll get behind them. I very much am of the belief that whoever the manager wants, as long as he gets them, I'll get behind them. Even if I disagree with the signing of it, he knows what he wants for his system. and I haven't watched too much of him with Leipzig this year, but Leipzig aren't having the greatest of seasons from my understanding. Austin said, no offense to Xavi Simon's ability or anything like that, but I just feel he's a lesser version of Szoboszlai. 100% agree. And when I seen this saying Manchester City are looking at him as a potential replacement for Kevin De Bruyne, I can tell you without any hesitation that Dominic Szoboszlai was on Manchester City's list as a potential replacement for Kevin De Bruyne. And that's why when we signed him and moved so quickly and got it done, I was very surprised and very happy about that deal, because, you know, he is developing, in my opinion, Szoboszlai into the player we thought we were getting. And now, sometimes it takes a bit longer, and he has been a bit up and down. But man, I've not seen many players with that engine to get up and down the pitch the way he does. PSG midfielder with takes at Adam Reynolds. Is that the guy, Emery? Young Zaire Emery, that guy? That's an interesting link as well. But look, I'll be the first one to say to you, I haven't watched much of PSG. I don't watch French football. But I think, from my understanding of the way he plays, he's got the engine that would work for us in midfield, because we know in our system we do need players who get up and down that pitch with a good engine, and by all accounts it seems Zaire Emery has that. Also, love you, Craig. Thank you, Austin. I've loved the streams. Keep it up. My wife and I love you. Send all the best from Cincinnati. Thank you so much, man. Hopefully the Bengals have a better year next year. I was expecting a lot more from them. Now, I know there was injuries and stuff, like, but yeah, wishing the Bengals the best as well, even though I've I guess declared myself a Packers fan in the last year. So what do we think about the other guy that I mentioned, Zaire Emery, the kid from PSG? What are we thinking about him? Dan said Gakpo going nowhere. Absolutely. I don't think certainly I haven't suggested Cody Gakpo going anywhere, mate. I agree with you. Cody's one for us for the future, and an incredibly important player who's chipped in with a really important lot of goals this season. Mart said, Dominic Szoboszlai is pure class. Only problem for me is the occasional diving. I think I would like a few more goals from Szoboszlai, but I feel they're coming, and I think he's getting stronger and stronger as more he gets used to English football. And again, under Arne Slot, I think he's progressing into a player deserving of wearing that shirt. Manny said, as a Bears fan in Chicago, I'll choose to ignore your Packers fandom. I hear you. I'm not even going to say to you about Aaron Rodgers saying that they own the Packers. I won't even bring that up. Or they own the Bears, sorry. I won't even bring that up. But yeah, man. Appreciate you looking past that. Rota, what other sports do you like? Boxing, darts, football. That's pretty much the three for me that I'd watch. But boxing is the next one. So, a couple of questions about ISAK in the chat. So, people have asked, do I think it's possible to sign ISAK? I think it is, but in a very specific set of circumstances. I think Newcastle might have to miss out in the Champions League. We'd have to certainly sell Darwin Núñez. And I would feel like we also have to keep Mohamed Salah at the club. So, if those three things fall into place, I think, yes, signing ISAK is possible. And the reason I say about keeping Mo is, I feel if we do lose him, then we may have to buy multiple forwards, which would probably mean the headline number getting less for the number 9. Bills Mafia wants you, Craig. Do you know what? I love watching the Bills. I absolutely love watching Josh Allen. He is incredible. But I couldn't be that cold and go watch the Bills in their stadium, man. It's freezing. Texans. That was the other one, Scott. It was a coin toss between the Texans and the Packers, and I went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And in the end, I just went with tradition of the Packers. And the reason I started watching the NFL was because of Aaron Rodgers. I just loved the way he played when he was at the Packers. So, but then I watched CJ Stroud in his first season, and I just thought, this kid's amazing, and I really enjoy watching him play. But in the end, I just felt like I owed the Packers my support. Not that they care, but you know what I mean. Adam, on here for a year, where is it gone? Well, thank you for being with us for that year, Adam, man. It means a lot. Appreciate your support. Just as cold as Green Bay. I get that. But God, man, some of the images I've seen of fans, specifically around like December, January, February. Am I right though? Are the Bills getting a roof, a new stadium with a roof? I'm sure I've seen that somewhere. So, let's talk about Aston Villa for a little bit. Now remember, that poll's still running in the background if you want to have your say. But let's talk about the Villa game for a minute. Because Villa are coming into this with their own injury concerns. I believe they're going to have a bit of a makeshift defence. No Pau Torres. Tyrone Mings, I think, is coming back from injury. There's some doubts about Leon Bailey. I think he might be okay, but there was certainly some doubts about him having a knock. And they're without other players. Ross Barkley, they won't have available. So I wonder, are we overthinking this game at Villa Park? Because it feels like every time we play now, because we're at the business end of the season, every opponent gets built up in our minds to be this, you know, super enemy, if you want to call it that. Look at Wolves as an example. You know, we should have dealt with them quite easily, but the second half we let the nerves creep in, and you could see it, you could feel it. It was evident. And with Villa Park, I almost feel like the pressure's off a bit more going to Villa Park, because at home against the likes of a Wolves, you're absolutely expected to win it. But I feel like we might play a little bit freer at Villa Park. I don't know, maybe I'm deluding myself here, but we're also unbeaten away in the Premier League. Craig, is it only Gakpo and Gomez out with the Villa game? Yes. Curtis Jones has served his 1-game suspension, so he'll be back in. And to the best of my understanding, there's no other injury concerns. Paul Joyce said Gakpo's been ruled out, which I think is correct. And then, obviously, yeah, we know about Joe Gomez. And the Packers playing Croker. I don't think it's been fully confirmed that it is the Packers, but it's believed it's going to be the Packers, yes. And I hope to God I can get a ticket to it. I'm hoping to get over to Florida next year if I can get the visa. I need to apply for a 10-year holiday visa, so I hope I can get that. And if I get that, I plan on going over to Florida next year for one last family trip to America. But see, is it weird that I don't know if I want to go and watch Croke Park, because it's not the authentic experience of watching an NFL game? You know, I want to go and do the tailgating and the whole shebang along with it. New stadium in Buffalo 2026, no roof but overhang. It's based on the Spurs stadium. I think they're going to have heaters, aren't they, in the overhang as well, if I'm not mistaken. That always baffles me about NFL stadiums. None of them have the overhang like you've spoken about. You've got either the indoor domes or just open bowl stadiums where fans are exposed to the elements. And I always felt like, God, did they not care about the fans? Stan said, Villa will be up for this game. We better be switched on. Yes, we better. Because they have their own aims for the season, you know. They wouldn't have expected to have dropped points against Ipswich. So yeah, they're going to be coming into this. Unai Emery's going to want a reaction from his players as they try to chase down the European spots for next season. Aaron Picard said, as a Green Bay native, there's nothing like a game at Lambeau Field. It looks incredible on the TV, man. The whole setup, and you can almost smell the nostalgia. Lewis said, to be fair, weather's a lot better in the US. Not in the likes of Buffalo, Green Bay, Where else do we see it? Cincinnati at times. You know, there's some cold ass parts in America as well. Do we know the lead official Wednesday? Yeah, it's Craig Houlden, Manny. Craig Houlden is the head referee for this one. Let me just fly back through. 1 second. Mark's always very kind and sends me through the referees for the week when they come in. So let me just fly back through. I know it's Craig Houlden who's the main referee anyway for the game. Sorry, so many notes here to fly back through. There we go. So the referee is Craig Houlden. No, that was for the Carabao Cup second leg. Shit, where's this one? Sorry, I'm still scrolling trying to find the full list of officials here for you. No, can't find. Sorry. I know it's Craig Houlden though. He's the main referee, and the last game he refereed for us, I thought he was very good in. Do you know what though? Full credit to the referee we had against Wolves, Simon Hooper. I thought he dealt with that game really well. And there were some difficult decisions in that game as well. And it's also been really nice to see pretty much every journalist and pundit acknowledge that there's no way Kanade should have been sent off, because this appeal for any player on a booking to be immediately sent off for another foul is nonsense. That was never a second yellow card challenge from Kanade. And I agree with Arne Slot. If he had got sent off for that, I think his 2 yellows would have been soft, especially the second one, because he made a genuine attempt to go and head the ball. And yeah, it's a foul, but every foul doesn't have to be a yellow card. Did Slot not get a touchline ban? No. Not yet. So he was charged. Liverpool were charged. Everton were charged. Slot and Sipka Hulshoff were all charged. Everybody has until Wednesday of this week to either accept the charges or put forward their case to the Premier League. They then have another 3 days to decide whether to continue on with the charges, and then a hearing date will be set about 10 days away. So you're talking next week, the end of next week, 2 weeks. So there's a chance he will get a touchline ban, but it's not active at the minute because the whole process is still ongoing. Why only one more family trip to the US? Kids getting older. You know, I'm sure I'll want to go back to the US many times, but you know, my daughter's starting to go on her own holidays now with her boyfriend, and you know, she's old enough, and my son's at that age where, you know, he's a teenager now. He doesn't really want to be with mommy and daddy. So yeah, that's what I meant by one last time as a family. But I love America, and it broke my heart getting kicked off that ESTA visa waiver program. Absolutely broke my heart, like, because I've been to Florida 6 times. I love it. How long will Gomez be out for? I don't know the exact length of time. It just it was reported as being a significant amount of time. I don't think there's been a time frame fully put on it. Some have suggested it may be the end of a season, but I really don't know. And it's been tough because Joe's such a good solid pro, and having him as an option would be great because he can play everywhere across the back line. But look, let's give some flowers to Jarell Quansah. I thought he came on and did really well. Like, if you go back to the start of the season, he was hooked at half-time for Ibrahima Kanade because he was losing his duels in the first game against Ipswich. And then we kind of almost had this weird little reversal where Ibu was probably a foul or two away from a sending off. So Quansah got brought back in against Wolves, and I thought he played really, really well in that second half and made certainly one goal save in challenge, where one of the players played it across the 6-yard box and he slid in and made a vital clearance. Duncan Simmons said, Craig, see Sky News Ref Watch reporting on Bellingham but not a squeak on Oliver. Yeah, I'm glad I'm not the only one who noticed that, because as soon as that Everton game was over, I was waiting for Ref Watch because I wanted to know. But you're right. Nothing. And this has been the case right the way through with Michael Oliver. Nobody seems to be able to be critical of him. And nobody wants referees like absolutely lambasted. But we should be able to have a conversation when a referee is found to have been subpar by a lot of different clubs' fans. And that's one of the things about Oliver that I find really interesting. The man's 40 years of age now, and was at one time thought to be the best referee in England, but I think he's living off that reputation now, and it's not deserved anymore. Any news on Zubimendi? No, nothing new, Gino. It's gone really quiet, mate. Nothing new. So here's an interesting one for you. Liverpool are the best team in Europe. I'll give you more context. So this piece here from One Football said Liverpool's reign at the top of the combined table of Europe's top 5 leagues goes on. So right now, with the games played, Liverpool would be top of every one of the major leagues in Europe with the points tallies we have. Liverpool, with 25 games played, have 60 points. Next comes Paris Saint-Germain of the French league with 22 games played and 56 points. Napoli then in Serie A, 25 games played, 56. Bayern, 22 games played, 55 points. Inter, 25 games, 54 points. Arsenal, 25 games, 53 points. Real Madrid, 24 games, 51 points. So yeah, Liverpool would be topping every league in Europe so far, which is great considering everybody keeps trying to tell us we're lucky or we're getting away with it. Manny said, Oliver's just genuinely bad. I don't think it's a conspiracy against us. He's just incompetent and arrogant. I would agree with that. I certainly don't think, like, with Paul Tierney, I absolutely felt like he had something against us because of the run-ins with Klopp. With David Koo, you don't need me to say anything. You know, you've seen everything on that. But with Michael Oliver, I don't feel like it's an anti-Liverpool thing at all. Because Arsenal fans don't like him, Chelsea fans don't like him, United fans don't like him, Liverpool fans don't like him. You know, everybody can't always be wrong. What ref we got Wednesday? Craig Pawson, the guy who did the second leg of the Carabao Cup against Spurs. So this one, Jasper, I get where you're coming from. So Jasper said it's just the pro-Manchester City thing with Oliver. I get that. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying there's anything suspect there, because these are huge, they're big accusations to make, and I wouldn't make them unless I had the evidence. But it certainly feels like he's certainly very, what's the word I'm looking for? Friendly towards them, considering in his career he's not sent off one Manchester City player. Then you've got the Jeremy Doku thing with us. Then you've got the whole refereeing over that part of the world. It's just, you know, that one I'm kind of, I'm with you on. I do think he's, certainly, let's just say, what's the words I'll use? A bit less harsh on Manchester City. Mikhail said, did you see the great report about the great offer Salah received? I mean, mate, there's so many reports about Mo and so many things. I don't know which one you're speaking about. Are you talking about Saudi Arabia? In which case, look, nobody would be able to commit or give him the numbers he could probably receive if he went to Saudi. But the thing about Mo is, it feels like he's playing for legacy at Liverpool. You know, he's getting closer and closer to moving up the goal scoring charts, closing in on the likes of Aguero and that. I just think he feels like he's unfinished business here at Liverpool, and certainly as fans we feel like there's unfinished business as well. It's just the whole thing with the club that I don't get. I just do not understand how we're still here. Are refs allowed to have a bad game anymore? Of course, but when you're being painted, Eamon, as the best that England has to offer, and you've had multiple howlers in recent seasons, with the aids of technology now brought in to assist as well, and then you have people feeling like they don't want to upset Oliver by sending him to monitors and whatnot, you got to ask yourself, mate, you know, do we need to revisit him being classed as the one for the big games? Because I don't think he deserves that credit in the bank anymore. You know, the years gone by, I would have agreed. I said, yep, big games, Michael Oliver. But not anymore. I feel like his standards have dropped. Conrad said, did you see the 4-4 tunes video on Oliver? Oh, I did, yes. I did. I sent a little message to the guy that owns 4-4 tunes just to kind of tell him I enjoyed it. It says he's closer to staying than ever. Oh, that's brilliant, Mihail, if that's the case, you know. Every day I wake up, I look at my phone, hoping, praying to see a contract extension announcement for Mo or Virgil. Yeah, every day. I thought we'd get it before Christmas. Then I thought, okay, surely before the end of January. Every day, man. Every day I'm looking, waiting. Why isn't Jared Gillett ever our ref? He supports Liverpool, so he can't referee a Liverpool game. Yeah. Referees always have to declare their allegiances and who they support. And I asked the same question about Jared Gillett because I think he's a very good referee. And apparently he's a Liverpool fan, which is why he can't referee any Liverpool games. But I think he's a very good referee. Any knowledge of why Dance hasn't got a peep at Sunderland? Yep, because he's not up there yet. He's doing rehab at Liverpool for a back injury. And then he was going to go up and start at Sunderland. But the plan was for him to stay at the Axis training centre and recoup from the back injury before he goes up to Sunderland. Timothy said, Oliver's poor officiating between ourselves and Everton was a deliberate one. Look, I wouldn't make that accusation without having it backed up. But what annoyed me was that very night I went on, as I always do, I've got a routine here every day. You know, I do this and then I go and I watch Sky Sports back pages at about 11:30 because it's on at 10:30, 11:30, 12:30. They repeat it. And I watched it. And I was watching the journalists that were on there talking about the incident for Everton's equaliser. And there was an acknowledgement that it looked like there was a shove on Canade. But there was also an acknowledgement that that wouldn't have made for good viewing or a good outcome. And I kind of sent it into the Discord group. I recorded the actual conversation. I sent it in going, what do you make about this? Because we can't just let rules go out the window at the end of a football game because it makes for good viewing. And because it gives a good end to the last derby at Goodison Park, where it finishes with 41 wins for Everton, 41 wins for Liverpool, and another draw. That wound me up a lot because it was a foul. It was a absolutely bona fide, a stonewall foul on Canade. And for the ref not to even be asked to look at it, I thought was absolutely unacceptable. Samuel said, if Craig leaves? No, that's not what you said, bro. You said, Craig, if Trent leaves, am I comfortable with Bradley starting? Yes, but we still need to bring in another right back then. You got to have two options. And what makes the Bradley one tricky is he is the younger one. So what way do you bring in another right back? Do you bring in another young up-and-coming right back? Or do you get somebody maybe who is 27, 26, a bit more experienced, but probably won't play all the time? It's a difficult one to figure out. And the whole Trent situation truly has me baffled. I don't know which way it's going to go. Because I don't know what's causing the delays. You know, you see stuff from David Ornstein and that saying that Trent's been incredibly loyal to Liverpool. And, you know, I just don't know what on earth is happening there. Because it can't, like, I can make allowances for Mohamed Salah and Virgil's age and the club maybe being a bit hesitant there, but I've no idea whether it's Trent that's delaying the decision, whether the decision's already been made about Trent. But Real Madrid haven't given up. You know, you've seen, I think it was Fabrizio Romano yesterday. I think I still have it saved here. 1 second. Yeah, he said, The situation has not changed. Real Madrid consider Trent Alexander-Arnold their top target this summer. Position number 1, number 2 and number 3 on the shortlist for fullbacks and defenders. And while that's still uncertain, I'm very nervous. Because I hate seeing Scousers leave Liverpool. And the idea of Trent walking away for free, it makes me angry. But not angry so much at Trent, because it's his career and I understand, you know, he's free to make his decision. It makes me angry at the club for allowing us to be in this position. Because there's no logical reason to allow this situation to develop other than taking your eye off the ball. Farco said, what's going on with the Slot red card? So, again, really quickly, Liverpool and Arne Slot and Everton have till Wednesday to, you know, let the Premier League know if they're accepting the charges or if they're going to want a hearing. And if they want a hearing, then the Premier League have 3 more days to respond to the evidence that Liverpool, Everton, Sipka Hulshoff and Arne Slot provide. And then after that, if it goes to a hearing, it'll be 10 days further on from that. So you're probably talking 2 more weeks before we get an outcome, unless they accept the charges, which it's hard to say whether they will or won't, because we don't even know why he was really sent off. You know, if it's for a sarcastic handshake, sarcastic handshake saying great game. I mean, can we start sending managers off for that? Is it only me who thinks that GAKPO is a limited winger? Great finishing, but compared him to Mane, lacks speed. So, I used to think GAKPO maybe didn't have that speed as well, but I'm sure I read something to suggest that he was very pacey, actually. But even if he does lack, perhaps, the ability to go around the outside as much as other wingers, you can't ignore the sheer volume of goals he's chipping in with, because it helps a lot. You know, if you can spread your goals around the front line and you're not relying on Mo to score them more, it really does help. And, you know, GAKPO has 9 and 8 or something at Anfield now. And before I had convinced myself that Diaz was the better option at left wing. Convinced myself. But then I realised I was probably doing Cody a bit dirty and I needed to pay more attention to him. And he's chipped in with a lot. A lot. Yusuf said, for a club as big as we are, it's actually very poorly run. So I was on the Athletic comment section earlier on, and I don't know if any of you guys are subscribers to the Athletic, but I don't understand the mentality of the people that comment on that site, because they seem to, it feels very American centric, which is understandable as it's an American outlet, but they seem to almost applaud the cheapness of the owners. Because, and I can only assume it's being so used to the American sports market and finances being a really pivotal, important part of it because of salary caps or spending limits and all this other stuff. It feels like they just don't understand the culture of why we're angry about the signings. Like, I'm a football fan. I don't give a shit if John W. Henry saves money or not. I don't care. I want my manager to get the players he wants, and I want to feel like the owners that we have are leaving no stone unturned to make us successful. But on there, it feels like they applaud it and think it's so clever because, look, you're going to win a league. And look, I get it. You know, you can make an argument and say, how can you be unhappy you're top of the league? And you're probably going to win the league. But my point has always been the same. I feel we'll win it in spite of the owners, not because of them. And yes, they've done some good things. But knowing how much financial wiggle room we have in PSR and the ability to spend money and not doing it season after season, I think it's deplorable. And I never understand the mindset of people who are happy with it. Because maybe you get a bit of success. And it always seems to be that everybody wants to go to extremes on it. So if I say I don't like the owners, I'm not happy with them, immediately I'm called the FIFA generation, or, you know, somebody who wants 200 million every window. Or the other way, you know, if I'm somebody who defends FSG, people like me will come out and call them bootlickers. So I guess if all of us can move the conversation into the middle, where most of us live, you know, I've been painted as the FSGL poster boy, and there's only really two things I'm angry about. I don't think they're terrible owners by any stretch of the imagination. I just don't think they're doing everything that they can. I've always tried to be, and I know this sounds nuts, balanced in my thoughts on FSG. But when I see stuff that I don't like, I call it out very strongly. And that gets me in trouble. But I'd rather have them than the Glazers. I'd rather have them than other clubs' owners. But my point is, I think they would have 99% of Liverpool fans on side with a bit more spending and a bit more visibility of being present at games and caring about the club a bit more. It just feels like an investment. And that feels really cold to me as a football fan, a European-based football fan. It feels really cold that the owners are looking at it without emotion, which could be a good thing in some aspects, but I don't feel a connection that they have to us, or I certainly don't have to them. Does that make any sense? Because I'm trying to explain it as fairly as I can. If they start spending more money, if we seen Liverpool coming up 4th or 5th in the net spend tables, kind of in and around other clubs that have our level of finance and ability to spend, I'd be happy. But we're constantly down the lower end of all these net spend tables, and net spend is important. It's not the be all and end all, but it's usually a good indicator. And that's all I want as a fan. The other thing I was angry about was the Super League, but nobody can change that. That's done. That chapter has happened. So yeah, if they spent a little bit more money and we didn't have such an embarrassingly low net spend figure all the time, season after season, I would shut up about them. It'd be that simple. Who in your opinion is realistic, but at the same time a great replacement for Trent? No idea. I have not looked at the right back market at all, because that would be in my own mind acknowledging the fact I think Trent's going, and I'm not ready to acknowledge that yet, because I hope he doesn't. Mido said, Craig, excuse me, sorry, had a hiccup. Apparently Liverpool are linked with Cunha. Would you like to see him at the club? He wouldn't be my first choice, but I wouldn't be 100% against the idea of it. Initially I thought 62.5 million feels a bit high for Cunha, but I was impressed. I'm falling into that trap of being impressed by players who play well against us, because I was impressed by his movement, his cleverness, and of course his finish for the goal. But for me it's really easy. If he's the guy Arne Slot wants, then he's the guy I want, because I have every faith that once Arne gets the men he wants, we'll continue on with this success. But it has to be built off the foundation of succession planning for Virgil and Mo, because I feel like if they leave this summer, we haven't done succession planning properly. And that, to me, could be the difference between maybe Liverpool winning a title this year, hovering around for a couple of years, maybe second, third, challenging but not winning. If we succession plan and give Mo and Virgil new deals, I feel like we have a much better chance to build success for 3, 4, 5 years, and not up and down. Because it still irks so many of us that we didn't build on the success of winning the Premier League when we won it. Didn't Cunha sign the new contract? He did, Mark, but there's a £62 million release clause in there. Is Jude getting a 12-match ban? It's been mentioned as a possibility. The referee's report seems to suggest that he feels it was a personal attack on him by Bellingham. And if that was the case, and I think it might be his second charge for a similar thing, and if that's the case, yes, it could be an extended ban, but I don't know enough about it, to be honest. Elliot said, love you, Craig. You never say the wrong thing and you're funny. Thank you. I definitely do say the wrong thing occasionally. But you know what I love about it? I love that you guys call me on it. So the other day, as an example, I think, where were we playing? We one of our games, on a halftime, I said, this player has had a poor first half. And then everybody went, you're wrong. He had a great first half, blah, blah, blah. I love that. I love that there's that much trust there that, you know, you can call me out on it. And, you know, if I'm wrong on it, or it looks like I'm clearly wrong on it, you know, we'll revisit it. But the funny thing, I don't understand how anyone thinks I'm funny, to be honest with you, because I don't think I'm funny. I think I can be endearing, maybe even a little bit charming. But the funny stuff, it's not really ever intentional. I just have stupid thought processes. So let me ask you guys a question, as Liverpool fans. Do you feel that there are some outlets, be they podcasts, YouTube channels, who aren't sincere in their takes on the club because of fear of reprisal or losing access? Now, I don't want to name names here because you know who I'm talking about, but it boils my blood that there are people who profess to want the best for Liverpool as a fan, but don't call out clear crap. Like, clear, I'm talking about clear stuff, not opinionated stuff. Like, not this player should have started, that player shouldn't. I mean, real goddamn cowardice that is just because of looking after themselves, and then have the cheek to act as a representative for a fan base. That really, really, really annoys me, because I think it's the height of hypocrisy. You know, we've got a platform, all of us that have built any type of a foundation, whether it's a podcast, a website, a YouTube channel, or whatever. We all have a platform. And I feel like we all have a duty of care to the people that tune in to watch us, the people that support us, the people that put us where we are. And I feel like we have to lead by example. And for me, that example is, you know, being sincere in my interactions with everybody. Why does that keep turning off? Sorry. Being sincere in my daily interactions with you, calling out the things that I feel need to be called out. And sometimes that's blunt. And sometimes it's a bit argumentative and reactionary. But it's sincere. Some of the shit that I've seen, I just feel like as a fan I'm undermined by these people. And I often feel like as well, when they're talking about looking after fans with tickets around, they're not talking about us. They're not talking about us. You know, there's a hierarchy of fandom at Liverpool Football Club, and it feels like there's definitely a two-tiered system where our money is important at times, but we don't actually get a voice. And those that do have both don't use the voice fairly or sincerely. And then again, think they're better than the rest of us. That really winds me up. I can promise you, I have reached out to every major Liverpool outlet since I've started this channel. Reached out with a hand of friendship, and every single one of the big boys have either ignored us or looked down their noses at us. And that, to me, is like a red rag through a bull, because I hate it. I hate this shit of, nah, we're the serious people, you're not important. It winds me up, man. It just does my head in, and I won't stand for it. As mad as that, as stupid as that sounds, I won't. I absolutely will not stop calling these people out. Um, 100%. There are two of them on YouTube that have VIP access to the club. So for me, the real telling point came when Kloppo was leaving. I keep going back to this, but I sat here as, again, I'm just going to try to be factual and not be arrogant. I'm sitting here and our channel's the most watched Liverpool fan channel in the world. That's a fact. It's not the most subscribed to. It's probably not the most well known, but it's the most watched Liverpool fan channel on YouTube. Full stop. So I see Jurgen leaving the club and we're all heartbroken. And then you see the farewell event at the M&S Bank Arena. And you think, oh wow, that's a great night. And then you see Redmen TV getting interviews with Klopp, sit down interviews with him. The Anfield Wrap, sit down interviews with Jurgen Klopp. The Echo and everybody else, interviews. And we asked, could we buy 2 tickets just to go to the show, to say goodbye to Jurgen, so not even to meet him, but just to be in that building, to just feel the love for the man. And we got blanked. And we wrote 2 really long emails, sincere, from the heart emails to the club, trying to figure out our place in the landscape. And again, ignored. And then they have the cheek to talk about you'll never walk alone and all this other shit. And it drives me dilally, because I know that because I'm outspoken, I'm blacklisted. And that stinks, because it's cowardly. You know, I'm not a bad person. I don't go personal. I don't talk about people's families. I call out the shit that I think needs to be called out from the club, and I leave it here and I go back. That's it. So that, to me, is a system that's rigged. And I'm going to keep calling it out, because it's nonsense. Just because we are critical doesn't mean we're bad people. And that's how we're made to feel. And that sucks. Because it really distorts your love of a club. You know, because you feel like, I'm trying to be a good role model to people. I'm trying to highlight the club in a good way. I only ever speak positively about the city and its amazing people because the salt of the earth. But just because I disagree with the owners on spending on certain things, you're a bad apple. You're toxic. The club start emailing people, asking why they're meeting you. And it all feels like so underhanded and devious. Like, imagine me, a tiny little YouTuber, going to Florida 4 or 5 years ago and meeting up with a couple of supporters clubs, OLSC's supporters clubs, official Liverpool supporters clubs, and the club messaging these supporters clubs to ask what their business is with us. Like, why would you do that? To a normal shitty YouTuber with, like, we hadn't even got 100,000 subscribers at that point. And they're reaching out to these supporters clubs to ask what they're doing with us and why we're going over to meet them. How can you not feel pissed off about that? How can you not feel like you're being undermined? You know, it's so silly. And it really just pisses you off. Because, you know, we've all been in a situation in life where you love somebody who doesn't love you back. Or, you know, you've got a friend who perhaps you think really highly of and isn't really there for you when you need them. That's kind of how I feel about the club now. I feel unwanted by a club that I've loved my entire life, and a club that I've tried to bring people together with and chat about the club and share my love of the club. But just because I'm outspoken and I have a couple of negative things to say, I'm all of a sudden made to feel like a bad person. Even when I was threatened by season ticket holders, allegedly, but definitely threatened, it was reported to the club. One of the security team reached out to me to say, I work for X and Y company who do the security, and I'm going to pass this along so they know that you were threatened, that you were doxed, your phone number was leaked, and people rang you up to threaten you. And I never heard from the club again. These are the type of things that make me feel really undermined, and but make me more determined that I'm going to keep on my journey, because I refuse to stand for it. And these are just custodians of the club. FSG won't be around forever, but it's also cowardly is the word I keep using. Like, cowardly. And like, there's so many things, but I've information that could have gotten a very, very, very senior person at Liverpool into a lot of trouble. And I mean bona fide, 100% nailed on, 100% provable information that would have landed a very, very, very high executive at our football club, and this has gone back maybe 5 years ago, in a load of trouble. And I'd never, ever leak that or talk about it, because that's a shithouse thing to do. And it's the same in our industry, by the way. You know, people think the people that are the biggest are the best. That is not the case. There are people in this industry who work against other people and try to make sure that they don't grow and succeed, or that brands don't work with them, or that other YouTubers don't work with them. You don't even need ask Lee Gunner about it. He'll tell you a similar thing. This whole world is so weird that it's tough to stay positive and keep going all the time, because it's tough. You know, you feel like, fuck, what have I done? Is it a player? No, it's an executive, a former executive. No player stuff. No, and it's not like, it's not an illegal thing. They've done, there's nothing illegal or anything like that. You'd have to know the circumstances of what I'm talking about to know why it's wrong. But I'd never, ever, ever say that to anybody. Because it was told to me in confidence by a person that was involved in it. And I've never even told Connor about it, to be honest with you, because, you know, I take the trust someone's placed in me seriously. This is a weird one, right? But the Anfield Buzz posted something that kind of made me laugh earlier on. It was Curtis Jones speaking about Virgil van Dijk. He said he has the most aura, big, strong, and everybody asks if he smells nice. He does smell nice. So there you go. You can be assured that Virgil van Dijk does smell nice. Also, Fabrizio Romano on HUIJSEN, on his contract release, he does have a £50 million release clause that comes into effect this summer. Allison Becker. It was posted on Team Talk, as I mentioned at the start of the stream, that Allison may leave this summer ahead of Georgie Mambardashvili's arrival. Now, I know we mentioned earlier on about a value for Elliott. How much do you think Allison would be worth if Liverpool were to cash in the summer? You know, allowing for his age, I think he's 32, 33 now. A goalkeeper probably go till they're 36, 37, 38 at the top level. So what would Allison be worth if Liverpool were to cash in? You know, we paid top dollar for him, and he's been worth every single penny of it. But it'd be very interesting to see what the valuation is if Liverpool were to look to cash in, or even what the first offer for him from somebody might be. So we asked you earlier on, is Xavi Simons good enough for Liverpool? And 56% of more than 1,000 people who voted said no, they wouldn't think that he's good enough. Right, so David said 30 million, Plex said 50 million plus, Mido 75 million, Salomon Khan 30. Betverge smells like victory. Yeah, I'd say he does, mate. You know, I imagine he smelled nice, but it's nice to have Curtis Jones confirm it. Callum said 80 million, 65. Ali would fetch 50 million, I think, best in the world, but injury prone. David Cromwell 50 million-ish, 55 from Brian, 60 to 70 from Stephen. Yeah, so for me, the only thing I can think of as to why you'd even consider listening to an offer from is what that gentleman mentioned a moment ago, that you feel like maybe the injuries will start to catch up with him. Because I got really panicky the other day. Do you remember against Wolves when he got the cut on his shin? I was thinking he was going to have to go off, or he picked up another injury, and I was dreading it. You know, as good as Kelleher is, I hate seeing Allison pick up injuries. But I wonder if that is the only reason maybe why we're starting to see these stories about a summer sale. How about a defender poll? Certainly, Ben. Any particular position? I'm trying to think of, do I have enough options for something? Right, let's talk centre backs then. Let's go centre backs. Right, so spell that right? I probably haven't. No, that's okay. I need one more centre back. So I've got HUIJSEN, Haddo, and Mark Gay, because he's been somebody we've been linked with in the past. Need one more centre back name. I know people are going to mention ENQUIRIES, but it won't happen. Maguire. This still makes me smile that he's the most expensive defender in the world still. Oh, that's a good one. Lukeba. Or is it Lukeba? How do you spell his name? Oh, Murillo. Oh God, some good options there. Oh God, there's some good options there. Oh, I'm torn now. Look, Christ child, Branthwaite would be right up on the top of my list, but we know Everton ain't selling to us. Lukeba, there we go. We'll go with Lukeba because I've seen links to him. And by the way, if you think differently or there's another name, please feel free to throw it into the chat. But here's 4 options anyway. So HUIJSEN, Hatto, Gay, or Lukeba. Again, there was an article the other day linking us once again back to Mark Gay from Crystal Palace, but Van de Ven, you couldn't sign him now. Not with the injuries he's had. You know, nah. I would feel so nervous now if Liverpool signed Mickey Van de Ven from Spurs because he's been brilliant, but he's so injury prone. When they signed him and I started seeing him playing, I thought this is defo one we've missed out on. But he does feel like he's picked up too many injuries that we couldn't rely on him. What happened to Antonio Silva? He's still at Benfica to the best of my understanding, and I haven't really been keeping too much of an eye on him. You know, he was a name coming through that I know Guardiola, Klopp and others were looking at when he first burst onto the scene at Benfica. Dejan Lovren, nah. The conspiracy theorist Lovren can no thank you. I've never been as angry at a centre-back in my life as I was with Dejan Lovren against Spurs that day at Wembley. Never, ever, ever felt so much anger towards one player in my life than that day. Van Hecke, the guy from Brighton. Yeah, he's... we're talking about the same guy, aren't we? The guy from Brighton, Van Hecke. I can't really say I've paid too much attention to him in all honesty. Ignacio of Sporting, again, you're looking at a centre-back there that's used to playing in the back 3. Same with ENQUIRIES. That's the reason why I don't think you're likely to see Liverpool move there, because they're used to playing in back 3s. Callum said, Craig, do you think Robbo will stay as a backup or go in the summer? I would guess we'd see Costas go and Robbo staying, because if you're going to bring in a new left back, let's say, just to throw a name out there, you're going KERKEZ. Well, he's what, 21, 22? So you're going to want a senior pro there as well. And I think Andy Robertson, used sparingly, if he was willing to stay around at the club, would be very, very good for us there. And I would prefer to keep Robbo than Costas, personally. Irfan said, how's Harvey doing? He's good, man. He's good. Still growing. He's such a cool dog, man. I couldn't imagine my life without him. Every night I'm in the kitchen when I'm making dinner or doing that in the kitchen, talking to him. I talk to him as if he's a human. Like, I talk to him as if he's me mate. And I swear he nods approvingly. What's my favourite biscuit? Well, the answer is a chocolate hobnob, Petter. That's the greatest biscuit there is. Chocolate hobnob. I love the oaty raisin biscuits as well. Nothing against a good old-fashioned custard cream as well. Nothing against an old-fashioned custard cream. Denilson, I heard seeing Marmouche for City. Also love the hoodie. Thank you, man. Yeah, it kills me seeing Omar Marmoush in a Man City shirt because I would have loved him at Liverpool. Bagged the first hat trick the other day. I think the first hat trick of his career, if I'm not mistaken, or his professional career. And he looks the business, but when you see that they're paying him £300,000 a week, you know we weren't going to do that. And the hoodie I got from Threads for Reds, again, I bought it about 2 years ago, I think, and it was in my wardrobe. I'd forgotten I had it. So yeah, I don't think they still said it, but yeah, I love it as well, mate. Eating a chocolate digestive right now. There you go. Chocolate hobnobs are the way forward, though. My wife came home from the gym, and yes, I did say the gym, the other day with a box of 12 chocolate hobnob, like a box with 12 packets of chocolate hobnobs in it. I looked very confused, like coming back from the gym with this, but apparently one of the lads works for McVitie's, so they had some short date biscuits, and I was more than happy to take them. Keane said, I thought KERKEZ was 24, 25. I think he's only 21. Maybe he's 22. But he's certainly very, very early 20s. James Bond, said, watch Barca tonight. They are very average. Yeah, I've never been blown away this season when I've watched Barcelona. You know, they absolutely mauled Real Madrid in the Clásico. But other than that, I've looked at them thinking, I wouldn't be worried if we played them in the Champions League. I think we'll deal with them fairly straightforward. Calum said, I can't believe we're winning the league this season. I'm the same, my friend. I didn't expect it at all. And it will be extra sweet because it'll be Arna's first year. Like, it will be... kind of reminds me of when Antonio Conte came in at Chelsea. And you remember, well, we started much better, but they had a kind of iffy start. And if my memory is right, we beat them at Stamford Bridge. And then he changed the system. And then Chelsea went on to win the league and have a really good season. But it took me by surprise because I wasn't expecting Conte to come in and do that well that quickly. But with Arne Slot, man, even allowing for the fact that I was fully behind him from day one, I didn't expect us to be here. You know, 7 points clear with a possibility to go 10 points clear on Wednesday because Arsenal don't play. It's absolutely incredible. And we should be just all absolutely cock-a-hoop and over the moon. But, you know, it being Liverpool, nothing can be straightforward. We have to go through the whole season not being able to fully enjoy the situation at the top of the league because we have the looming contract headaches, just like an elephant in the corner of the room, sapping up all the enjoyment. And I haven't been able to really enjoy this season because of that. It's like, I'm happy, but I know this headache's still here. And I feel like if we got those contracts sorted now, it would be better than a new signing for the remainder of the season. Because the goodwill that the fan base would have, the players, I feel like it would push us on. And that fatigue that we're starting to see in the nervousness, I feel like it would dissipate because everybody would feel overjoyed. And the players would feel like they can put it off their minds now. I think it would just be a huge positive to push us on for the rest of the season. Craig, totally hypothetical. Carabao Cup plus Champions League or just the Prem? Just the Prem for this season. You know, normally I'm a Champions League person before anything. But this season, I agree with Mohamed Salah. It just feels like winning the league this season would be extra special. But do you guys feel that way about the contracts as well? Like, is it sapping some of your enjoyment, or am I just allowing it to distract me when it maybe shouldn't? But I feel like it's, if I'm being honest about it, absolutely is taken away from my enjoyment of the season. Because I don't want it to be another one-off. I don't want it to be us do this and then fall away again. I want us to build on it, and to do that, I feel like we need to have the surety of the contracts being sorted. Rachel said, I'm still not saying we're going to win the league. That's okay, Rachel. I understand everybody has their own situation that would make them finally say it out loud, maybe. But I think the next 10 days, Rachel, are going to play a huge part in a lot of our confidence. If we can get through these 3 games, Aston Villa, Man City and Newcastle, somewhat unscathed, and by that I mean 7 points, say, out of 9, I would almost be certain that we'll see Arsenal drop at least 2 points as well over the course of their next 3 or 4. And that would be it for me. Because something else that we have to acknowledge here is Arsenal are running out of match weeks to start to chip away at this lead. You know, we're 25 games in now, 13 to go, and they basically need us to lose quarter of those games and them to go perfect to win it. So each one that we win, each game that we get past, or even each game week that we match Arsenal's result, the likelihoods of them being able to mount the comeback are just fading away. Can you elaborate about the legal letters you got when you spoke about Rio Ferdinand the other day? I never said anything about Rio Ferdinand sending me legal letters. I said Goldbridge sent me them. I never said anything about Ferdinand. The only thing I've ever had with Ferdinand is I tried to get him to do a $5,000 charity bet with me on who'd finish above who in the league, but I've never had any legal issues with Ferdinand, and I certainly have never said I had. Goldbridge is the one that sent us the legal letters. And to elaborate on them, I can and can't go into too much detail because it's not just myself that was involved in it. There was accusations made about certain things and poaching people and blah blah blah, contracts being broken, blah blah blah. It's just all bullshit, to be honest with you. Intimidatory tactics that never going to work on me. But yeah, it was never Ferdinand, so I don't know where you got that one mixed up from. Martin said, yeah, it looks like a rebuild. I feel the same, said Ben. Dylan said absolutely the same. I think Salah and VVD contracts are already done, said Mark Bell. Mary said, I'm with you on that one 100%. I'm fuming that the deals aren't done, said Keith Dunn. I don't understand the rationale behind the thought process of not mentioning the 2 contracts if they're done. I don't understand that, why you wouldn't. You know, why are we waiting? Like, if Mo and Virgil are done, which I don't think they are, but if they were, I don't understand the thought process of waiting. Like, if it's not to put pressure on Trent, well, surely putting more pressure on is a good thing, you know, because we want that resolution. And also knowing that these 2 guys had signed would surely be a good thing to Trent, because he'd look and go, right, well, we know they're going to be there for the next couple of years, and you know the club are going to go into the market then and address. So if it's an ambition thing with Trent, or he wanted to see the direction the club were going, that would surely give him some food for thought. You said that Rio wasn't the brightest, but you didn't want to say too much. Well, yeah, because I don't want to slate somebody I don't know. I just think some of his takes are stupid. But what I meant by I didn't want to say too much was I wouldn't go that much in on somebody I don't know. I've never had any conversations with Rio Ferdinand or anything. I don't really like most of his takes on football. But he was an incredible centre back. Paul Taylor, welcome to Anfield Agenda FC, my man. Unless Trent's decided, said Isa, and that's my fear. My big fear is that we're being strung along and that we're going to get heartbroken and we're going to be told that he leaves, and then it will get incredibly toxic, in my opinion, because I'm somebody that believes in upfront and honesty is the way to go, even if it's a difficult subject or you're going to hurt people. I think in this situation, if he ends up going to Real Madrid, I don't know a Liverpool fan who won't think that this has been done ages ago and we've been all strung along. You know, I'm not saying that that's the absolute state of events, but it's how I'd feel. I feel like he made this decision ages ago and we were strung along. Mark Bell said, I think not telling us is so Slot doesn't get hammered with Trent questions and upsetting the title challenge. I think you can look at that the other way as well, Mark, and say by not talking about these issues, it's probably leaving it to fester, and the players don't have clarity. Mohamed Salah, Virgil van Dijk want to stay, but they don't know if they're going to have to uproot their family and move in the summer. Ash said, can only see Trent regretting his decision. A few half dozen bad games and the fans will turn on him. He can't get away with his ego when he comes to defending. So I agree with you on that. And it's not just with Trent, but any player that goes over there. My take would be, if Trent goes to Madrid and he has 3 or 4 bad games, maybe even less, you're going to hear the "we want Carvajal back" and you're going to hear the boos, the white handkerchiefs come out. And if you think the English media are bad, they're not, compared to some of the stuff you see in the Netherlands or in Spain. They would rinse Trent if he wasn't playing well, and you wouldn't be able to get away from it. So I think he'd regret it as well. I love the idea of somebody backing themselves and thinking, I can go over there and be a success. I do kind of admire that self-belief in somebody. But he doesn't strike me as a Real Madrid type of player. Because I know people accuse him of being arrogant. I never really got the read of him being arrogant personally. I just think he's introverted and almost shy, if that makes sense. I think Trent definitely feels like an arm around the shoulder. Let him know how important he is to the team and to you as a coach kind of player, to me anyway. And even with his, I do get wound up by the jogging around the pitch malarkey at times. And that, yeah, I can get people calling him out. But the language style that he has, I think that's just him. I don't think that's not being emotionally involved or caring. Did anything happen between you and David Lynch? Yeah, he decided he didn't want to work with me anymore. Because I was calling out some of the lads from the Echo and he's friends with them and he didn't want to be in an awkward position, so he decided that he'd be best not to work with us. That's okay. I respect his decision. My stance on him as a guy will never change. I enjoyed working with him. I always found him to be very pleasant and polite. But I'm not going to sit here and lie and say I don't feel aggrieved by it, or that I don't feel like he threw me under a bus. When I was only ever professional, courteous, nice, paid him well, and treated him professionally. So I feel absolutely pissed off about it. But I respect his decision. It's his career and he's every right to go in the direction he wants. But I feel like I didn't deserve it. I felt like I've never, ever, ever given him any reason to not feel like we were professional, that he was ever put in difficult positions. Go back and watch every single video we did with him. Never once have I put him in a compromising position or asked him difficult questions or made him talk about things in a way that I felt like would put him under pressure. I wouldn't do that to somebody. So to be thrown under the bus the way I was, I felt like it was unfair. Stephen said, Trent's quite casual, but Real like intense characters. The fans will turn on him after half a season. Tom said, some of the punditry on Sky is so bad it beggars belief. Contrast that to the rational logic of Richard Dunn and Damien Delaney on RTE. I just don't like a lot of the pundits that are on Sky these days. I just think they're nowhere near as good as their predecessors. Look at Gillette Soccer Saturday now. A show that I used to absolutely love on Sky. And now I look at it and I just don't like the characters on it at all. Ivan said, you need to do a behind the scenes video of what you do and how you prepare, etc. if you haven't done it already. I think I've only ever done a little brief behind the scenes video of what my setup looks like. But, I mean, yeah, maybe I should do a video someday of what a day is like for me in preparing for the shows and stuff and the research. I think it might surprise a few people to know quite how much we do research for a show that's live and unscripted to some extent. Am I confident for the Villa game? Yes, I am. Yeah, I am. More confident for that game than I think I am going to the Etihad. I feel like if we beat Villa, it's almost a free hit going to the Etihad in some ways. Because when the fixtures come out at the start of every season, I look at that fixture as one, I think, a point in my head. Now, you know, with the way City have been, you absolutely look at it and think, well, there's a possibility if you go there, you can get 3. But a point in my head when the fixtures come out, I think, yeah, point there, point at the Emirates. And if we beat Villa, I feel like then 10-point gap over Arsenal. Yes, we'd have played a game more, but I think it takes the pressure off then the weekend against City. Right, I'm going to say goodnight and go and record the roundup video of news for the morning, but not really sure what's happening on the channel tomorrow, to be honest. It's probably going to play it by ear a little bit. Where's the option for none of the above? There, you've just written it. You can only have 4 options, GMAC, on a poll. So if you don't, like I said when I put the poll up, if it was somebody else, man, just throw it into the chat. So with heading for 500 votes on the poll, we asked, who do you want? HUIJSEN, Hato, Gay, or Lukeba as the options, and it's been relatively close, but mainly there's one leading one, and I'm interested to give you guys the result. I want to get to 500. It's one away. Well, we need one more vote. There we go. So HUIJSEN with 40% of the vote is the one that most of you guys said that you would like to see from that list anyway. So yeah, appreciate you guys being in. Again, if you haven't hit the like button, please do. We're up to 800 likes, which is incredible. If we can get up to 1,000 before you head off, would really appreciate that one. We'll see you tomorrow at some point. The preview for the Villa game went up earlier on this afternoon, so if you get a chance, have a look at that. Let me know what you think. And I think I'll be live tomorrow, but I'm not 100% on it. But remember, the game against Villa is a 7:30 kickoff on Wednesday. 7:30, not 8 o'clock. So we'll be live from 6:15. So appreciate you. And again, quick like before you head off. And here comes 300k soon. Fingers crossed. Much love, folks. Thank you for a really fun stream. Really enjoyed it tonight. And we'll talk soon.